Entitled kid probably got nightmares after entitled mother demanded that her son plays a game on my computer. For some context, I still live in my parents' house since my university is really close, so I don't need to get myself an apartment. This story happened about a year ago. Our cast are me, some random dude in my house, I don't know who that is, M, my mother, entitled mother, my aunt, entitled kid, the most annoying kid in the universe. The story. On a beautiful Sunday morning, I got woken up by my mother telling me that she'd invited my aunt with her kids for lunch. Now, to be honest, I never liked that particular auntie that much, but what can you do? So about 2 hours later, the family come over. We have our lunch and afterwards, we sit around in the living room and chat about it. At some point, I noticed from the corner of my eye one of my aunt's kids, the entitled kid, going to my room. Now I had my computer open and I was a bit afraid that he might do something to it, so I followed him. Now that kid was about 8 at the time, and he should in no way be allowed to play violent video games. And me being an avid gamer, most, if not all the games I had installed, were rated as PEGI 18, meaning they were to be played by people over 18. The conversation went like this. Hey, do you have any games? I do, but they're not for you. These are grown-up games. But I want to play. I'm sorry, but you cannot. At this point, the kid runs out of the room and to his mom. He does not let me play games. The entitled mother says to me, Come on, let him play some games. He has nothing else to do. The games that I have on my computer are not for his age. They're violent and disturbing at times. But my little boy wants to play. Can't you let him play? I'm sorry, but these games are not for your child. Excuse me? We are guests, and you have to do what we say. Just let him play. At this point, I've gotten really angry. And in hindsight, I should have just opened a Flash Games website and let him play. But this computer was my most prized possession. Having built it myself, with mostly my own money, and I would not let an 8-year-old play freely with it, because I was afraid that he could damage it. Also, my malicious compliance side came out at that moment, so I did not pass the chance for some good old malicious compliance. I say okay to both my mum and the child, and take the kid with me. I open Outlast. For those of you that don't know, Outlast is a horror game with many disturbing images and scary scenes, especially for an 8-year-old child, and let him play. Not even 5 minutes in, I hear a scream from my room and see the entitled kid run crying to his mother. What the heck did you make him play? What's wrong with you? I told you before, my games are not for young kids. They're for adults. But you wouldn't listen. The mum straight up picked up her children, one still crying, and left the house. After I told my mum what exactly I did, she burst out laughing. Learn to listen to people when they warn you. P.S. I really don't get why people believe that everyone is lying here. I know that this is the internet, and you should not trust everything you see in it, but for the love of God, just stop being stuck in that defensive mentality. Not everything is a lie, and not everyone is a liar. Our next story was posted by user BuckDaddy420. Entitled mother feels cheated out of her inheritance. Hey internet people, long time lurker on this sub, and Reddit in general. First time poster here. English is my first language and I'm on PC. This is more of an entitled family story, but has an entitled mother in here, so I thought I'd give it a shot. Little bit of backstory. I came from a highly dysfunctional family and tried to spend as much time away from them as possible. In the 3rd grade, when I was 9 to 10 years old, I met a set of twins that would become lifelong friends, and their family a second to my own. At the head of their family was their grandfather. He was an extremely rough around the edges, no bull giving or taken, my way or the highway kind of guy, and the fact that he was half Mexican and half Mescalero Apache didn't help. Every one of us boys at the house was scared to death of him, and no one wanted to go out of town with him to work. When I was 21, I ended up helping him on a job outside of Fort Worth, and during this time we bonded. I called him Pop, and he called me son. A couple of months after we started the Fort Worth job, Pop received a call that his aunt had passed away. We stayed up having a few drinks, and he told me stories about her till the rooster crowed. He described her to me in the same manner that us boys would describe him to others. Now this woman would drink a fifth of bourbon and smoke 5 cigars every day till the day she died, but she made it to nearly 100 before she croaked. During the last 20 or so years of her life, the majority of her family had absolutely nothing to do with her, with the exception of one grandson. She also had amassed a nice little spread outside of Waco, having a 100+ acre ranch and a large farmhouse and a 7-figure bank account. Pop decided that we should attend the funeral. A few days later, we found ourselves in a small funeral parlor in the craptastic town of Waco. The funeral was going as all funerals go, with some people sobbing, others binge drinking, hey, and most of the kids looking bored as frick. As Pop and I are sitting quietly, minding our own, we hear this increasingly louder conversation behind us. Enter the cast. Entitled mother, grandson's mum, EF1, 2, and 3 are the entitled family, most likely are the other daughters, Gigi, the good grandson. EF1 goes, "Really? Everything? What do you mean, everything?" "That's what the lawyer said." "She can't do that to us, can she?" "There's gotta be something we can do about this. It's his fault she died. If he hadn't provided her with whiskey and cigars all those years, she would still be alive." "Don't worry, he's my son and will do whatever I say. We'll sell everything and split it evenly between just the 4 of us." It was at this point Pops caught on to what was being discussed, as I'm sure everyone else around had, and he, being a man not to hold his tongue, lost it. It went something like this. "Y'all need to shut yo' butts." He loved to say that. "This woman lived to be nearly 100 years old, and you're going to try and say he killed her? Over what? Money? If you cared so much about her, where were y'all the last 20 years of her life? He didn't do it for the money. He did it because it was his grandma, and it was the right thing to do." Before the entitled mother and the entitled family members could regain their composure, GG came up, looked his mum in the eye and said, "Goodbye, Mum. This is the last time any of y'all will ever see me again," and simply walked out of the door. The last I heard about any of it, GG was enjoying life out on the ranch and refused to have any contact with his immediate family. I spent about another 6 months traveling with Pops, working construction and learning masonry. He passed about 7 to 8 years back. I miss that man. Even if no one reads this, it felt really nice to talk about Pop. Our next story was posted by user TopGorilla17, titled, "Let Them Eat Cake." Long ago, way back in the before time, I worked one of those bulk warehouse club stores. My trade was simple. I was a wrangler of the Silver Buffalo and dutifully retrieved the old ghetto strollers I did. The job in and of itself wasn't the worst I'd ever had. I got plenty of exercise, got to be outside, and generally didn't have to interact with the members. Calling them customers was taboo for the most part. For the most part. The thing about this job is that the company I worked for had a reputation for being cheap. Thusly, more often than not, I was on my own out in the parking lot. Big whoop, you might say. You gathered carts? You should see how hard my job is. Yeah, well, shut up. This is my story, butt munch. I digress. The reason that being alone sucked is that this store didn't have just one kind of cart. Heck, they didn't even have just 2 kinds of carts. You had your classic garden variety cart, the kiddie cart with the plastic facade to make it resemble a car, the electric scooters, which weren't supposed to leave the store, but did so with alarming frequency, and finally, the bulky, hard-to-control flatbeds. On top of that, whenever someone needed help loading their haul into their minivans, I was the guy they called. You know, because the greeters, cashiers, and managers were all busy. As you might expect, one man cannot be in multiple places at once, and as a result, On some of our busier days, it became incredibly difficult to keep enough carts in the vestibule. Our store begins in one of these days. So there I was, chugging along like a good worker drone, struggling to keep up with the sheer volume of people coming in to buy cheap bulk goods. Sure enough, I get a call on the radio. Top Gorilla 17, we need you to help some members load their purchases. I'd love to, but I'm barely able to keep up out here as is. Just do it, Top Gorilla 17. You can afford to stop gathering cards for 2 minutes. Ron Howard goes, he couldn't. I didn't want to push my luck, so I complied. After spending 20 minutes loading people's purchases, because when one person needs it, suddenly they all need it, I came back to find my vestibule a near ghost town, save for a single line of carts that was half gone. And the Karen. I won't waste time describing this specimen. She was the prototype. You know what she looked like. There she stood, menacing, tapping her foot with such speed that could make any metal drummer green with envy. You could collect the contempt in her gaze in a jar. Where are the big flat ones? I blanked for a moment. I'm, sorry? Ugh, Mexicans. For the record, I'm very much white. Where are the flat ones? Oh, you mean the flatbeds? I'm sorry, I was just helping some other members load their merchandise and haven't had the chance to. Oh my god, I don't care about your excuses. You had one job, and a trained monkey could do it. I just wanted this lady out of my face, so I don't fight it. Sorry ma'am, I'll grab one from the parking lot for you. You better! So I go back out to the lot and find a whole line of flatbeds sticking out of a corral, blocking several parking spaces. I push them all into the vestibule where she wants, huffing about how I'm wasting her valuable time. I separate one from the rest and bring it to her. I'm terribly sorry about the wait, ma'am. She leers at me with utter silence. Unbelievable. And with that, she's dismissed herself into the store, where she will be someone else's problem. I shake my head and return to what I'm paid to do. About 15 minutes later, I'm returning a line of carts, and I see her pushing her flatbed to her Miata and jawing about stupid people. Most certainly referring to me on her cell phone. You know what she had bought? What she'd insisted a flatbed for? A cake. This wasn't even like a big cake. It was just one of those little circular numbers, like the ones you get at Woolies or Coles over here. Anyways, I witness as she continues to yammer on about how I nearly ruined, I tell you, ruined, her precious baby's birthday party, when the most glorious thing happened. Still clutching her phone with those Jai-a-lie scoop claws of hers, she attempts to pick up the cake with one hand. The plastic topper pops off, and she spills the cake all over her undoubtedly expensive designer outfit. Seething with white-hot rage, she locks eyes with me now. You! Get me another cake! Now! Terribly sorry, ma'am. I've got one job, and these carts won't gather themselves. I walked away, crap-eating grin plastered on my face, as her shrieks faded into the distance behind me. I've had my share of nasty customer interactions before, but this one really took the cake. Yeah! Woo! And our last story was posted by a user, CatheterZetaJones. Oh god. Titled, Kid Destroys Office / Racist Entitled Parent Threatens to Sue. Our office lobby has a wall of shelves filled with pamphlets. These shelves go from floor level up about 6 feet, and are held up with little bookshelf brackets. They are only designed for light materials. As this story will demonstrate, they are poorly designed. But our office services adults, not children. Every couple of days, a negligent parent will let their child attempt to climb up the shelves, knocking them off and sending pamphlets flying everywhere. Usually before that happens, me or one of my colleagues rushes over and asks the parent and child to stop. 99 out of 100 times, this goes great. until yesterday. Entitled parent's screaming child is starting to climb the shelves. A co-worker rushes over and does her usual friendly spiel about the shelves being light and not safe for climbing. The entitled parent half yelling goes, "Oh, mind your own business, I'm watching him!" Okay, just want to make sure he doesn't get hurt. At this point, the kid stops for a minute, still screaming but not climbing. The mum comes up to me at the reception desk, leaving the kid by the shelves. Of course, he starts climbing again. So I say to the kid, "Oh, buddy, you need to stay off those." "Excuse me, my kid's just fine. He's not breaking anything." Cue the exact moment the kid pulls down 2 shelves and falls flat on his face. Now he's screaming and crying. This prompts my supervisor to come out of her cubicle behind us. "Oh dear, what's happened here?" asking me and my co-worker. "My son was trying to reach something and those shelves fell on him." "Was he climbing on them?" Again to the co-worker and I. My co-worker and I start an answer. The entitled parent cuts us off. She still hasn't gone over to her screaming child. "No, they just fell." I heard the co-worker mention climbing from my desk. "Is your child okay?" "No, he's obviously not. He's crying because you hurt him." One of the security guards steps in. He'd already come in to the moment the kid fell down. "Miss, can we offer some first aid and I'll have you fill in a report?" "My report is that your shelves fell and hurt my child. Actually, I was watching and he climbed on the shelves after the co-worker told him to stop. You also left him unsupervised." "Well then, why didn't you stop him?" "Our job is to protect the officers, not to supervise children. Now, does your child need first aid? And can you give us your information for a security report?" The entitled parent starts calling the guard racist terms and refuses to give any information. The entitled parent says she's going to call the news and sue the company. At this point, our supervisor steps in between this lady and the security guard. "Ma'am, I'm gonna give you the choice to either leave our offices by choice or I will remove you with security assistance." "Who the frick are you?" "I'm the one giving you the choice." Mic drop. The entitled parent was speechless. Totally speechless. She grabbed her screaming kid, threw him into the stroller, like painfully, and stormed out while screaming back at us the whole time. As she was leaving, 2 more security guards were on her tail, making sure she left, and didn't come back in. My co-worker triggered our silent alarm while this was happening. Me, my co-worker, our supervisor, and the security guard all filled out security reports for the next hour. Security also tagged the appropriate CCTV footage and added it to our report. I'll update this if anything comes up, but I expect that's that. What happened in that story? That felt like a bloody James Bond escape kind of from the building there. Jeez, she's crazy. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed that episode. I'll see you on the next one. Tell me what you thought of it in the comments. And if you're new here, yes, you, please subscribe. Please. And have a good day. I'll see you later. Bye.